previous video, I have explained about respirational volume and capacities and exchange of gases. I hope you all understood that two topics. Once again, I want to recall. In respirational volumes and capacities, that we have seen many topics: tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, then expiratory capacity, inspiratory capacity, total lungs capacity, then residual volume. So like that we have seen many topics. Why it is needed to study about that respirational volume and capacity? That means to diagnose the problem of lungs. So for that we are studying that. The next one, then only we know the capacity of lungs. How much of air getting inside, that means how much of oxygen is getting inside, how much of carbon dioxide is released out. So for that we are studying the respiration volume and capacity. Next, exchange of gases. Exchange of gases, how does it happen in human body? That is, we have seen, especially in alveoli, how that gaseous exchanges happen. Then from the blood vessels to tissues, how it does it happen? That like we have seen. Here in two places it is happened by simple diffusion. So the higher concentration to lower concentration, it is moving. If pressure is high, that means it is moved to lower pressure. So based on that, the oxygen and carbon dioxide which is exchanged in our body, that is, I have explained. I think you all understood that. The next, there we have in alveoli, we have one membrane, that is squamous epithelium. The next one, in between the squamous epithelium and endothelium, in between the squamous epithelium and endothelium of alveolar capillary, because I think alveoli, blood capillaries are surrounded. This is blood capillary. Inside we have RBC. This layer is what? Endothelium. Endothelium of alveolar capillary. This layer is squamous epithelium. In between that we have basement substance. So here the diffusion is happened. So based on the thickness of membrane, also one of the factor. Okay, it will determine the rate of diffusion. Which one? Thickness of membrane. Here we have different membranes: squamous epithelium, endothelium. So based on that also the rate is rate of diffusion. Okay, right. So that like we have seen in last video. Then next, today we are going to see about transport of gases. Okay, in last video we have seen exchange of gases. Here we are going to see what? Transport of gases. How the gases will be transported from the alveoli to tissue, then tissue to alveoli. How does it transport? What are the factors involved in that? That is, we are going to study. Transport of gases. This is part 4. This is part 4. Okay. The next, transport of gases. What are the gases we need to transport? Oxygen and carbon dioxide. These gases need to transport. Who is going to transport? Because you know exchanges happen in alveoli. That is the exchange site. Which one? Alveoli. Alveoli is what? Exchange site. So here oxygen and carbon dioxide, 97% of oxygen is transported by RBC. So who is going to transport? RBC. So oxygen is transported by RBC plus plasma. The remaining 3% it is transported by plasma. It is dissolved state. Okay. So now we know who is going to transport gas. That means blood. In the blood, RBC is present, plasma is present. So that particles, RBC and plasma, which carry the oxygen, were from the alveoli to tissues. Okay, because in the exchange of gases, during the exchange of gases, oxygen is getting inside. You know, it is based on the pressure, different pressure we have seen, and the partial pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of carbon dioxide also we have seen. The next, it is what? Oxygen transported, then carbon dioxide transported. How? 20 to 25% it is transported by RBC. Then 70% transported by plasma. 70% transported by bicarbonate. The remaining 7% is transported by plasma. Okay. So from the tissue to alveoli, the carbon dioxide is transported. Who is going to transport? That means 20 to 25% RBC, 70% bicarbonate, 7% plasma. So by that the transportation is happened. Now we are going to see how does the transport is happen. What are all the factors involved in that? Okay, right. First one we will see about transport of oxygen. Transport of oxygen. Transport of oxygen is done by, you know, RBC and plasma. RBC is one of the pigment. RBC is one of the cell, blood cell. In that we have hemoglobin, that is pigment. RBC is not pigment. RBC is one blood cell. That blood cell consists one pigment, that is what? Hemoglobin. So transport of oxygen, it is done by hemoglobin. Hemoglobin, which consists iron. It is one of the pigment. Which one? Hemoglobin is one of the pigment. Hemoglobin is one of the pigment. So in RBC what it is present? Hemoglobin is present. The next, it consists iron. It is one of the pigment. That's why our blood is red in color. That's why it is red in color. If it is red in color, it is called as what? RBC, red blood cells or red blood corpuscles. Okay. If it is not red color, it is not called as RBC. But our blood is what? Red in color because of hemoglobin. The next, the RBC the RBC bind with oxygen. The RBC bind with oxygen because which need to carry one place to another place, so it need to bind with oxygen. So it is called as that hemoglobin. The hemoglobin which carry what oxygen or bind with the oxygen, it is called as oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin. If hemoglobin is carrying oxygen, that means it is called as oxyhemoglobin. So how many molecules of oxygen which is carried by hemoglobin? That means 4 molecules. So 4 molecules of oxygen is carried by hemoglobin. One hemoglobin which carry 4 molecules of oxygen. Okay, this is about hemoglobin. So what it is here? Hemoglobin, it is present in the RBC. It is one of the pigment. That's why it is red in color. So it is called as red blood cell. Then it is bind with the oxygen. If that hemoglobin carrying oxygen, that means it is called as oxyhemoglobin. How many molecules which is carrying? That means 4 molecules. Next, what are the factors involved in the binding of oxygen? We have some factors. In exchange of gases, we have some factors, no? Thickness of membrane, solubility of oxygen and carbon dioxide. The solubility capacity of oxygen and carbon dioxide is one of the factors of exchange of gases. So like that, here also we have some factors. What are other factors? That mean factors. What are the factors? Partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide plus hydrogen ion concentration, plus temperature. So these are all the factors. Partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Partial pressure, that means the pressure is what given by particular gas, okay, in mixture of gases. That is called as what? Partial pressure. Already we have explained in the last video. Partial pressure, that means it is denoted by partial pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Okay, right. These all the factors is responsible for binding oxygen with hemoglobin. Okay. How it is involved? How does the factors involved in the binding? That is we are going to see. Before that, one sigmoid curve will be given by the pressure. Whose pressure? Partial pressure of oxygen and as well as percentage, that is saturation of hemoglobin. That is I will tell you. Here a sigmoid curve of time sigmoid curve of time percentage saturation of of hemoglobin with oxygen is plotted against the partial pressure of oxygen. So here one sigmoid curve obtained when, that means percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen is plotted against the partial pressure of oxygen. How does it? I will tell you what it is. This curve is known as oxygen dissociation curve. This curve is known as oxygen dissociation curve. So this picture show that curve. Why I am saying this? That means in certain stage, if oxygen level high in the air, that means our body which is not carrying all the oxygen, okay, our body which is carrying some amount of oxygen, after that it could not take all the oxygen, so it is plotted, that is it is given in this picture. So this is partial pressure of oxygen. Partial pressure of oxygen. Here percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. Percentage saturation of hemoglobin with oxygen. How much oxygen is saturated with hemoglobin? Here the pressure. You see here the sigmoid curve is represented. Why? That means you see here so the saturation, when the oxygen is saturated with hemoglobin, it is plotted. Why that mean? Our body which is carrying certain amount of oxygen, if outside the atmospheric in atmospheric air there we have partial pressure of oxygen, whatever it may be, whether it is 100 or 200 or 300, whatever it may be, after that it should be flat, because after that the hemoglobin which is not carrying carrying the oxygen. Certain amount of oxygen only which is carried. So that is represented by this picture. Do you understand that? Yes. If partial pressure is increased in outside, which means our body which is not carrying all oxygen, certain oxygen only we can take. So that is given in the picture. Do you understand that? So this curve is known as oxygen dissociation curve. Oxygen dissociation curve. Right. The next, how the factors involved in the binding, I will tell you. One is factors binding of oxygen. Factors binding of oxygen. One in alveoli. In alveoli, how that binding is happened. What are the factors involved? Already we told that the partial pressure of oxygen and carbon dioxide, then hydrogen ion concentration and temperature. These are all the things involved in the binding. In alveoli, what does happen? That means here the high partial pressure of oxygen and low partial pressure of carbon dioxide plus low hydrogen ion concentration plus low temperature. So which means it is favorable for formation of oxyhemoglobin. So in alveoli, the formation of oxyhemoglobin is happening because the alveoli is surrounded by capillaries. The capillaries have RBC. RBC consists of what? Hemoglobin. That hemoglobin carrying oxygen. So the formation of oxyhemoglobin, which is done by some factors. High partial pressure of oxygen. If oxygen pressure is high, if carbon dioxide pressure is low, and hydrogen ion concentration is low, and temperature is low, that means the formation, the binding is happened. So that hemoglobin which bind with the oxygen, then it is ready to transport where? To the tissues. So here the formation of hemoglobin is happened by these factors. The next, in tissues, what is it? The reverse process. Because see here, oxygen bind with hemoglobin. Okay, it reaches to a tissue. Okay, then that hemoglobin need to release the oxygen. It cannot always carry. It want to release. Okay, so what it is happening in the tissue? That means here low partial pressure of oxygen, high partial pressure of carbon dioxide, and high hydrogen ion concentration and high temperature. These factors which is enable, these factors which is enable to release the oxygen. So here the formation has happened. It is favorable for formation. It is favorable for dissociation of oxygen. It is favorable for dissociation of oxygen. Okay, right. So here formation has happened, here dissociation happened. Dissociation will be nothing but it is the hemoglobin is releasing what? Oxygen to the tissues. Then what happened? The catabolic processes happen. Where? In the tissue. Because now tissue receive what? Oxygen by hemoglobin. So these all the factors involved. So we can here conclude that what? Oxygen gets inside of the alveoli, then it is transported by the blood, then it is reached to tissues. Now the tissue is getting oxygen. Now after that what happened? Catabolic processes happen. The next, how much amount of oxygen the tissue is getting? Actually it is tissue is getting 5 ml. It is getting what? 5 ml. 5 ml out of 100 ml deoxygenated. 5 ml oxygen is getting in normal physiological function. 5 ml oxygen is getting by tissue from the 100 ml deoxygenated. Sorry, oxygenated. 100 ml oxygenated, because those blood carrying oxygen, they call it as oxygenated blood. So 100 ml oxygenated blood which give 5 ml oxygen to the tissues. So after that what processes happen? Catabolic process. So hereafter we are going to see what? The transport of carbon dioxide. Now transport of oxygen is completed. Next our topic is what? Transport of carbon dioxide. Do you understand that? Our next topic is transport of carbon dioxide. Transport of carbon dioxide. Here before we have completed transport of oxygen. How that oxygen transported in our body, that is we know. Now we are going to see how carbon dioxide is transported. Okay. Here hemoglobin involved. I want to rectify one mistake. As I told before, in the beginning, the oxygen is carried by 97% RBC, 3% is what? Plasma. Carbon dioxide transported by 20 to 25% RBC and 70% in carbonate, I said. In carbonate not, it is as carbonate. 70% of carbon dioxide, it is transported as bicarbonate. Okay, right. Here hemoglobin involved. If it is carrying carbon dioxide. Which one? Hemoglobin. If it is carrying carbon dioxide, that means it is carbamino hemoglobin. In transport of oxygen, it is called as oxyhemoglobin. In transport of carbon dioxide, if hemoglobin is carrying carbon dioxide, that means it is carbaminohemoglobin. Right. Here, the binding of carbon dioxide, the binding of oxygen, it is related by some factors. Here also, the binding of carbon dioxide related to binding of carbon dioxide is related to partial pressure of carbon dioxide. It is related to partial pressure of carbon dioxide. How much pressure is present? Based on that, it is binding. Formation and dissociation is happening. Binding, that means what? Formation. The carbaminohemoglobin formed based on the pressure of partial pressure of carbon dioxide. Here in cell, that means in tissue, when the carbon dioxide, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high and partial pressure of oxygen is low, that means what happened? More binding is happening. More binding of carbon dioxide. It is happening in the tissue. Okay. When carbon dioxide pressure is high, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is high, partial pressure of oxygen is low. What happened? The formation is happening. The binding of carbon dioxide is happening. So that RBC is known as, that hemoglobin is known as, not RBC, that hemoglobin is known as carbaminohemoglobin. Okay. How many percentage which is carrying? 20 to 25% it is carried by RBC. 70% carried as bicarbonate. How that bicarbonate will be formed? That is, I will explain. Right. Here the formation is happening. The next thing, in alveoli, when the partial pressure of carbon dioxide is low, partial pressure of oxygen is high, that means here the dissociation, it is happening in alveoli. It is happening in alveoli, right? Here, if it is low, if it is high, that means what will happen? The dissociation of carbon dioxide from carbaminohemoglobin. So it is happening in alveoli. Okay, right. So it is the factors. Which one is factor? Here partial pressure is factor. If it is high in tissue, that means it is binding is happening. The binding is happening. When carbon dioxide pressure is low, the oxygen pressure is high, that means the dissociation of carbon dioxide is happening. It is in the alveoli. So this line, the transportation is happening. And what about bicarbonate? That means here one enzyme is involved. That enzyme is carbonic anhydrase. One enzyme is involved. Enzyme, that is carbonic anhydrase. Carbonic anhydrase enzyme is involved, the concentration of enzyme, the carbonic anhydrase concentration is high in RBC. High in RBC, low in plasma. Low in plasma. Okay. So, carbonic anhydrase is responsible for the formation of bicarbonate. I will tell you how it is. Actually, in tissue, what it has happened due to the metabolic process. That means what metabolic? That we have metabolic process two types, anabolic and catabolic. So catabolic process is happening in the cell. That is what respiration, In end of the respiration, that means end of the catabolic process, carbon dioxide is released and water. So the water and carbon dioxide, which is changed as a carbonic acid, H2CO3. How it is changed as a carbonic acid? That means it is carbonic anhydrase involved, anhydrase is involved. So carbon dioxide plus water, it is react with carbonic anhydrase enzyme. It is converted as a carbonic acid. Okay. This enzyme is changed what? Carbonic acid. It is converted into carbonic acid. Which one? Carbon dioxide plus water. Which enzyme involved? Carbonic anhydrase. Then this carbonic acid again convert into bicarbonate, HCO3 minus H plus. Okay. So carbonic acid again convert as a bicarbonate, that is HCO3 minus plus H plus. So this is bicarbonate. This is bicarbonate. This conversion also done by carbonic anhydrase. Carbonic anhydrase. Carbonic anhydrase. So the carbon dioxide finally changed into what? Bicarbonate. Okay. Then what it is happened? The bicarbonate again it is changed as a H2CO3. It is carbonic acid. It is also done by carbonic anhydrase. Then again it is split into carbon dioxide plus H2O. It is also done by carbonic anhydrase. It is near the alveoli. It is happened what? Near the alveoli. Alveoli and capillaries are connected in those area. In that area, this process is happened because in tissue it is released and it is converted into what? Carbonic acid. It is done by carbonic anhydrase. Then it is changed as a bicarbonate. Now bicarbonate is ready. Okay. Then it is carried in the blood. Actually, in RBC it has happened. In RBC it has happened. Then next, the bicarbonate when it is reached to the near alveoli, the blood capillaries are present. Blood capillaries are present. alveoli, blood capillaries. So here what it is come? HCO3 minus plus H plus. So it is bicarbonate. It is bicarbonate. So that bicarbonate, it is comes in blood. Here what it has happened? In RBC what we have? Carbonic anhydrase. That enzyme convert the bicarbonate into what? H2CO3. That is what carbonic acid. Again it is converted into carbon dioxide plus H2O. So here it has happened, CO2 plus H2O is released. If the carbon dioxide concentration is low here in alveoli, what I told, PCO, partial pressure of carbon dioxide is low. That means what happened? This carbon dioxide is getting into the alveoli, then it is released to the atmospheric air. Then alveoli, then bronchioles, bronchi, trachea, then pharynx, then nostrils. Through the nostril, the carbon dioxide is released. I think you all understand that. Here the bicarbonate is big role it is doing. The role of bicarbonate is here is very important. Actually, these all the things happen in the RBC, because in the RBC only we have carbonic anhydrase. It is convert carbon dioxide into what? Bicarbonate. Then it is carried into the blood. Then near to the alveoli, some process is happened. Again it is changed into carbon dioxide plus water. Then it is released into the alveoli. All the things done by carbonic anhydrase. Okay. There in transport of oxygen, I told in 100 ml of oxygenated blood, 5 ml oxygen is released. Here in 100 ml deoxygenated blood, in 100 ml deoxygenated blood, 4 ml carbon dioxide is released out. Deoxygenated. In out of 100 ml of deoxygenated blood, 4 ml carbon dioxide is released into the alveoli. So what happened? Binding is happened in tissue. Then next dissociation happened in the alveoli. Okay. Do you understand or not? So finally the carbon dioxide is released out. Okay. That's all. Then next we are going to see regulation of respiration. How that respiration is happened? Who is responsible for that? Who is regulated the respiration? That means in brain we have some area. Those area regulated our respiration. That is we are going to see. Okay, that regulation of respiration and disorder of respiratory system in next class we are going to see. Today, still now we have seen transportation of gases. In transportation of gases, transport of oxygen, transport of carbon dioxide we have seen. How it is happened, what are the factors involved in that, what are the enzymes involved in that. Okay, so I hope you all understood that. Read well, go through NCERT book well, and next you have to concentrate on video class, and if you have any doubt you can ask me. Thank you.